Welcome aboard, welcome back on the AM show, and we get into our big stories. Now today, first on the chopping board, we're going to be contemplating Parliament, which has started its debate of the 2024 budget presented by Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. We'll be delving into that today on the show. Again, flag bearers of both major political parties, the MPP with Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and the opposition NDC with John Dramani Mahama, have hit the ground running. Dr. Bawumia has embarked on his thank you tour. Former President Mahama has also been going round, doing same in some respects, but also whipping up the interest of different members of the public in terms of what he has planned should he become president again. But are you convinced? What do you think? Well, we'll get into that conversation with our guest, Dr. Rashid Pelpuo, Member of Parliament for Wa Central. Let me reiterate, whenever you see a conversation with one side represented and the other side not represented, it means we reached out to the other side and they did not give a representative. It happens on both sides every now and then. So if you don't see that side, it's because we tried and they didn't offer us any response. We can't compel anyone to be here. Dr. Pelpuo, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you, my brother.
It's good to have you. It's been a while.
Good to see you. It's quite a while, yeah.
It's been a while since we last spoke, and a lot has happened in between.
Yeah.
But if just to set the tone for the conversation, if I asked you right now, from where you sit, before we even get into your constituency, when you look at Ghana, what picture do you see? What would you say?
I'm seeing a declining economy, a confused governance system where citizens are losing their rights and can even die without enough concern by government. I'm seeing an economy that is strangulated. It has gotten to a stop, a point where we can only go back and not go forward. And I'm seeing a situation where the managers of the economy think more about themselves than to think about the state. And in a situation where the youth is in danger of seeing their future ahead of them. It's a very sad story of a people who came to power believing that they are going to change the economy, they are going to make people happy, they are going to develop the private sector and create jobs for people, only for us to see what is happening now. I recall when the NDC, when we lost, there was a cry against us that the economy was growing at a small rate of 3.7%. Inflation was at 18.4%. The cedi was depreciating and it was 3.8 to $1, and it was a concern. These were all concerns. Today, we are struggling to even reach 3% growth. We haven't gotten to 3% growth at 1.5%, and then we are struggling to manage inflation, which is at 35.2 now. And the cedi is gone far. I mean, you can't even imagine it's unstable. Some are saying it's 12.5, some are even saying it's gotten 13 and all that. So this is the stagnation and the drawback to our progress I'm talking about. I used to be a fan of watching, the league table in our GDP growth with other African countries. At one point, I was so impressed that we even got up to the 8th in Africa. Today, Tanzania has taken over, has beaten us. La Côte d'Ivoire has beaten us. We are even struggling to remain at the 11th level. And it's all a sad story. I mean, this is, take politics away, but we can't have our leaders run the government of Ghana this way. We can't have them make huge promises to the people and fail us this much. We can't have all the lies being told about how we want to progress, how they want to help us to progress, only for us to draw back. And for the same people still seeking to be in power.
Well, you know, same could be said of the NDC as well. In the past, you've also disappointed in many different ways. But I'll leave you to reflect on that before I come back to you. Let me engage Nana Yaw Gyimah. He is with Love 99.5 FM, and he's also been with the former president, John Dramani Mahama, on his tour. Let's find out what the former president has been up to. Nana Yaw, if you can hear me, where exactly are you, and what is the latest you can report on the tour of John Dramani Mahama? Hello, Nana Yaw, can you hear me? Okay, so we'll work the connection to get Nana Yaw Gyimah on board, and as and when we get him, we'll actually find out what he has to share with us. Let me quickly come into the studio then, and even as we do this, there are some blowbacks, blasts from the past, even in respect of the former, the current vice president and some of what he said in years gone by, because we'll be heavy on the 2024 budget as well, and what he said back then, sometime in 2015, about an alternative budget, now looking at how things are going. But we were on the point of, yes, you're saying that sometimes politicians make these wonderful, glorious promises as though they could come and wave a magic wand and everything would be settled. But your party is also guilty of saying.
Yeah, it is that, politicians are not superhuman beings. We are not angels. Sometimes we make promises and we can't fulfill those promises because of relativities, situations that you will not be able to control. But where the failures are persistent, consistent, and where the failures are not recognized by the same people who make those failures, and they keep making the failures and it defines them, the failure defines them, then it becomes a problem. Look at all the promises made, uttered by His Excellency Dr. Bawumia himself, and all the impudence all about it. He talked about how he's going to get money he wouldn't need to go to borrow money. Borrowing was condemned because we were borrowing. Look at the situation we find ourselves now. Now about 91%, or even close to about 100% of debt to GDP. Can you imagine that?
Fitch said at a point 99%, but I think that was revised to a bit lower. But coming anywhere close to 100% is heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. And he's still making those promises. Bawumia is still making those kinds of promises. So they don't get a feel of their failure. They can't recognize that they are failing the people. He can't see that the things he's saying are also taken note by the people. And that I just watched something on social media yesterday when he said that the Zongo he's going to give the Zongo community about $50 million every year. Can you imagine that? $50 million every year, and that everybody will be fine. And today, not even today in the budget, they were able to provide only $1 million, and that's for administrative expenditure. So what is he always talking about? I also saw him making fun of John Mahama's promise of 24-hour economy.
Right.
And he said,
I was about to get there, but since you started, yes, we can go there.
Yeah. He was saying this is something that is not doable, and that it is not a good policy. Meanwhile, when he said it wasn't good, when he's talking about it not being good, he's the same person talking about the fact that it's already operating in some places. And he said it is not good. It can be legislated. When you made your promises to the people of Ghana, were they being legislated, that there will be, now you are not going to construct the roads by asphalt or quota, you are not going to use concrete to construct roads. Was it legislated? You didn't even do something about it. We make promises and we fulfill them. Even if we don't get to the pinnacle, the finality of it, we promise them. John makes promises. John Dramani Mahama makes attempts, and he gets to the point where Ghanaians can say he has done what he could. He did what he could. So it's so funny that such a person supposed to be a highly respected economist or somebody who should understand the system of political economy will fail in everything that he promises, and that he will create jobs and jobs and jobs. I watched another tape of his when he said they are going to improve the private sector, they will bring jobs to the people, and they will make sure there are jobs. And he kept repeating, jobs, jobs, and jobs. Where are they? Where is that private sector economy?
Is this a competition in less failure? Do you understand what I mean? Is this a competition in who failed less?
No, it is
because the NDC, respectfully, has also, led us down a very bad road in the past. The economy, among many other things that have not inured to the benefit of the ordinary Ghanaian. I do admit that where we are is rather precarious. In fact, listening to Dr. I'm just trying to get his name. He was speaking yesterday. Dr. Isuming, of the University of Ghana Business School. He was saying that this is going to be the costliest, the most expensive IMF package we've ever had in terms of what it's going to mean to the ordinary Ghanaian. But we've been down this road far too often. The exchange rate is inhibitive, unless, of course, you are earning in dollars or euros or pounds or something of the sort. I get the fact that things have really come to a head. But even when your side is in power, it's always somewhat shambolic. And I'm asking myself, is it just about choosing the lesser evil? Or is it about choosing an option that can really take us to that land flowing with milk and honey?
You can't have any economy in this world that can take you to the point where Ghanaians or the people want us to get to. But you can always have an economy or a government that takes you closer to it. Because you can't always get to the pinnacle, the final, the success you are looking for. You can't implement your policy to the fullest. But we want to see committed attempt to reach there, which is lacking in the present regime. And if you look at what we did and compare to what is happening now, it's like we were sipping milk and honey. If you look at the construction work we did, the management of the economy, the fear to go wrong, the punishment of people who do the wrong, the commitment by the head of state himself to make sure the right things were done, and the fear of corrupting the system, which was in all of us. I was a minister at the time, and the fear we had in being seen to be corrupting the system is all lost and gone in this particular regime. If you look at what we left behind, the economy we left behind, debt to GDP about 68%. It's like it would have been heavens for these people to get to that point. If you look at the perception of corruption, the worst John Mahama had, 42, is what is their best in this regime. If you look at the national reserves, international reserves, it's broken down. If you look at the cocoa industry, it's gone.
Recently, your side has had some cause to complain about some of the loans being contracted for cocoa purchases and all of that.
It's terrible.
You've had your concerns about that.
It's terrible.
And so, yes, there is a 24-hour economy, for example.
But let's talk about the cocoa.
Okay, so let's stay briefly on that. But then I also want you to break down for us.
Yeah.
I've heard different things from different places.
Yeah.
What will this really mean? Because if this is going to, and it's not necessarily cut and dry, that once you have a 24-hour economy, it's going to create more jobs. You must look at the different sectors, the enabling environment for private sector to even want to say, you know what, we want to do more than 12 hours or 9 hours or 10 hours and have more people on board. It comes with the right security, installations. It comes with so many other dynamics. That's a different conversation. You want to focus on cocoa briefly. Let's
when you mention the loan, Bloomberg is saying we are recording the highest interest on loans ever, the most expensive loans Ghana has taken at 8%, interest rate. Can you imagine that?
Why do you think that is? Because again, you know that because of where our economy is, because we've been cut out of the international, market when it comes to loans and all of that. In some of these areas, if you look at the risk factor, anyone giving you a loan will be giving you a loan at a hefty interest rate. You're fully aware of that, right?
Yeah, I'm aware of that. But that defines the kind of economy we now have. It defines the administrative, the governance system we are operating. We have lost confidence in the international community. We can't go for that 2% loans. They used to give us. Ghana is a known cocoa producer in the world, second in the world, best in the world. And if you are going for a loan, all that should give recognition to the bank that this country is solvent, is capable of paying the loan, there's consistent supply of cocoa, and it can pay. But they don't have confidence in the people managing the economy. They don't have confidence in the system now. They have taken us through a system where Ghana was at the top there, now has sunk to a level where our respectability is gone. And let me tell you, at John Mahama's time, we produced cocoa at about 1 million metric tons. Today, how much is it? They are struggling to maintain it at 600,000 metric tons. And they have incurred so much cost in that respect, much more than any other. I hope you understand what I mean. The cost of getting cocoa to be exported, producing cocoa, getting it exported, the cost involved is the highest we have recorded ever. This year is ranging about 21 billion Ghana cedis. Can you imagine using $50 million Ghana cedis to go and buy torchlights?
Yes, I've followed that story.
So they don't care about the state. They care more about themselves. In fact, Ghanaians should talk more than we are speaking now. Ghanaians should get more angry, should be willing to get these people quickly out, should teach politicians that when you are good, we keep you. If you are bad, we take you away.
And it shouldn't just be a matter of getting them out or booting them out. It's always about, and then what? What's the alternative?
And then, let people suffer for what they have taken us through. Yeah, if we identify levels of corruption, inadequacies that are of criminal nature, they should be tried.
The issues of corruption and economic mismanagement you speak of, your party was also accused of that. My question then to you is, have you learned any lessons since that time?
Well, the big lesson we have learned is that we did well even in those situations where we were accused of these things, but we can still do more. And we should place ourselves in a position where we can do more than 100 times better than we did the last time, and meaning 200 times better than what these people are doing. And that, and I'm happy John Mahama, Excellency John Mahama, started talking about the number of ministers we are going to bring on board, and the cautions about expenditures, public expenditures, and all that. We have trained ourselves to be very careful when you are managing an economy, to be shy of being seen to be doing the wrong, to be committed in doing what will make the people happy, to invest in the lives of the people in projects, to close up the gap in our underdevelopment so that we can be a par in areas where we have counterparts operating in the Committee of Nations. But these people don't think about it, and that's our problem, and that's my grief, that we have so much confidence in what the utterances they made before being voted in the office, and nothing shows that they are caring about the people of Ghana.
The thing is, if they had performed excellently well, your party wouldn't even stand a chance. And I'm sure you would have been happy with that. But I mean, if they were doing so well that you knew your party didn't have a chance, would you be happy?
Yeah, but we will have something else to argue about for Ghanaians to look at to see whether we can do that better. But I would have wished that they do better. I have very close friends and relatives who are in NDC. But when Baumia and Nana were making all those pronouncements and saying they would do A, they would do B, nurses, this, that, my own people voted for them. And they explained to me why they did. Today they are regretting. And I met a businessman who wouldn't greet me because he said that in his time, it took him 6 months, 3 months to get his job, his certificate passed through and being paid. And the worst he suffered was in one certificate he did, it took him 6 months to finalize it because they kept telling him he was not doing the right thing. When he finally did the right thing, they paid him. And he was angry. He said he should have been paid within 1 month after he finished his job. He met me the other time and saluted me and said he was sorry for everything he has done. At least in NDC time, you suffer because if you stay too long, it will be your fault because you have to present the certificates as they are. Nobody is asking you for any 10% before they pay. You will take your money and then for some people, they go back and give. Now they tell you, pay money, then you pay. Then how to get the certificate is a problem. How to get the money is a problem. And he said he's so sorry he was always against the NDC because they were demanding something that we couldn't necessarily have been doing, for them. So when you look at all these things and compare to the present terrain, you realize that the torture in the business world is climbing to a point where they are even losing confidence in themselves.
Unprecedented, maybe, because we hear from the business community, the GNCCI, GUTA, the AGI, and we're not exactly in the best of places. But let's focus on that aspect. I'll come back later to some of the utterances that have been passed by your candidate, your flag bearer, and the NPP's flag bearer as well. There's a video that I want to play. When it's ready, I'll get the alert and we can play it. Because this tinkering, this toying, this teasing Ghanaians with outlandish promises sometimes and then leaving us in the lurch is creating a lot of problems. Now, I cannot share the full story, but someone in the academic circles shared with me just a few days ago about a taxi driver she sat in a vehicle with. And this taxi driver was saying that, look, things had become so bad that he would supposedly do something very bad if given the opportunity to sort of, that could, lead to some great disturbance in our country. And and she tried talking him out of it like, no, you can't do something of this. So the point she was startled about, he simply didn't care. And you see, what you don't want is to push people to the point where they don't care what happens. When you push a human being to that point, they could become terrorists. They could do anything to destabilize the system because they simply couldn't care less. And that's my problem with politicians in this country. But we'll get to that point. Let's talk about the budget. Okay, so then let's just, I hear the video is ready now. So instead of going to the parliamentary bit, let's hear what in 2015, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, now Vice President, now head of the economic management team, had to say. Watch this.
The reckless borrowing of this government has compromised the whole oil discovery. You need 6 times of our oil revenue just to pay interest, not even capital. It's interest on the debt. So it is a really sad development. I mean, what fundamental issues that affect this economy have been addressed in this budget? You should ask yourself, what fundamental issues? If we had spent, the money's borrowed, and that money borrowed is the equivalent of some $37 billion over 7 years. Now, can you imagine what $37 billion can do in an economy? $37 billion. I mean, it's amazing transformation that you can see.
The investment the government is talking about. We are going to add about 800 megawatts of power.
But we are talking about a record. You can always talk. We are going to do this. The question is, what have you done? You've had 7 years in government. What have you done? I mean, your record should speak for itself. You shouldn't be waiting for the 8th year. The IMF, they can point to even a lot. Oh yes.
They will point to the Rich Hospital. They will point to.
When the Kufuor administration was there, with such meager resources, so much can be pointed to as well. Infrastructure, as John Mahama says, if you point to infrastructure, you are engaging in an exercise of mediocrity. But the IMF managing director put the nail on the head when they said that the borrowing done by this government has been used for consumption. It's not me saying it. It's been used for consumption and not for investment. This is the IMF's assessment. And if you look at the data that supports what she's saying, the infrastructure to GDP ratio has come down from 9.1% when the President Kufuor was in office to 4.8% today. Infrastructure. You've borrowed so much, but you are reducing your investment in infrastructure. So they can try to hoodwink us with pictures of development all over the place. But the reality is that they should have been doing twice as much. They've had 10 times as much resources as the MPP government had, 10 times as much in nominal terms.
So what
of
is the
resource.
MPP alternative? I mean,
The MPP alternative is going to be, it's a very major alternative that is going to be unveiled on Thursday when we address
But you can speak to that
I don't want to, of course I can, but I want to leave that to breathe. But we are going to build a new economy, a different economy. And you will be hearing a little bit more, because you cannot just criticize without providing alternatives. And we are going to, and we have anyway.
On your
We are,
feet, you can tell us something as to what exactly.
I'm telling you, it's
the
an
big plan
exciting.
is.
I will tell you what it is not. It is not a doomsday economy. It is not a dead goat economy. It is not a friends and family economy, right? It is an economy that will create jobs.
So there he was, the vice president, then the running mate. It's not a doomsday economy. It's not a friends and family economy. It's not an unemployment economy. And he asked the question, you've had 7 years in government. What have you done? It's interesting, right? 7 years in government. We could put that to the vice president right now. And that's why I get a bit frustrated with our politicians, NDC and NPP, because it appears to be the same tape, broken tape, over and over and over and over. And you know what they say, when two elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. We, the masses, the ordinary people, suffer. Back to you, Dr. Pelpo. So this is why some people are frustrated. The hope that was invested in this cause, look at where we are now. And that's why I'm putting it to you that politicians have not been fair to our country on both ends, and we simply need to do much, much better. It's easy to talk, but not so easy to walk the talk.
Thank you so much. I think when it comes to MPP and where we have gotten to now, and I don't think that it will be fair for anybody to be talking about NDC and say we didn't do well. Because the difference is just between, it's like night and day. And what they have achieved compared to what they have earned. Look at him complaining that we spent 37 billion and we did nothing. Somebody drew his attention and said, oh, there's infrastructure. He said, oh, infrastructure is mediocre. Can you imagine that? People were not listening to Bawumia. They just got consumed by his rhetoric. Today, they have spent 600 billion. What have they done? People are asking the questions. What have you done with that money? And he's talking about the fact that they are going to create jobs. They are going to have a new economy. Now, this is the economy they have now. Industry has declined very miserably. Manufacturing has declined very miserably. Look at the budget. Construction is gone. Water supply, decline. Sewage and management system, decline. All the sectors are in decline. I mean, nobody can have confidence in the present regime. This is a man who said, we are going to have a new economy. What is that new economy about? Is it?
He said we'd move from taxation to production.
And where is the production? Manufacturing, industry, construction. Those are the areas you can see real progress going on. They are all in decline. You don't know what they're about. And the same person is still talking and still trying to convince Ghanaians. I want Ghanaians to see into this man that speaking English is not equal to doing the right thing. Knowing economic terms and utilizing them has nothing to do with the reality of the situation. People are suffering. They want to find food and eat. I sit here every single day, the number of people who call me to say, can I get something to feed today? You can't count them. Because Is the situation compelling them to be who they are today? So it's a sad story of a people who have invested their resources into one person's hands, Nane's hands, supported by his vice president, only to get us where we are now. Even to go and take a loan, which we can pay back, they are now saying we are not qualified to take the loan without a huge interest being placed on us.
In there, Dr. Bawumia speaks about you can't just say stuff and say this is wrong, okay? And this is where I want us to veer into a bit of what the two different sides have been saying and then get into the budget as we conclude. What's your alternative? That's the question on the minds of Ghanaians. The MPP, I think no one can dispute at this point that the MPP has been woeful in many respects.
Yeah.
But you can give them their flowers in some respects. Education, we may have had a very turbulent cycle of 3 to 4 years, 4 to 3 years, and free SHS and its implementation. That is different. The buffer stock and feeding in these schools. I mean, back then in the day, long ago in Bishop Herman, it wasn't like this. And how can we be retrogressing instead of progressing as time goes by? We can give them their flowers for a number of things. One of the things I'll give this administration its flowers for, the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park. Have you been there yet?
Yeah, I've not entered, but I've seen
It's fantastic. I know the cost of it and everything, but those are the things we should do. Recently, I saw, Sadiq Adam on Twitter, on X, post about, I've forgotten the country, whether it's Zimbabwe, Zambia, or some other country. They have a university named after Kwame Nkrumah. You get it? Yeah. I mean, there's so much more we can do to salute our heroes and heroines. So I think these are some of the things. They are fantastic, okay? But by and large, looking at the greater economy and everything in between, the Ghanaian has moved back many paces. And I don't shy away from saying that. I say that with every opportunity. Sometimes you have to castigate government before some basic things are done. Recently, on my blunt thoughts, I had to go hard on government about the roads leading to Korle Bu. Somehow, a short while after that, it was done. Why does it have to take someone to make a lot of noise about something that we know? A referral center for the entire sub-region. People come from across the sub-region and go to Korle Bu. So those are the things I'm asking. What then is the NDC's alternative? What differently are you going to do?
You know, when normally they ask, I listen to it when they ask him, Bawumia, so you are criticizing all this. What will you do? He didn't have anything to say. He only said, we won't do a friends and family and friends economy.
But he said that in 2015, and they have done that.
Yeah.
They have had a family and friends government.
Yes.
It is clear.
So he even failed to tell the public of Ghana what he wanted to do. I just want to draw this attention that they had nothing to show. Getting close to the elections, they went and brought these fake promises about one village, one dam. One village, one dam. Can you imagine it? One district, one factory. Those kind of funny things that they brought into play. But in our particular situation, you heard John Mahama talking about what we want to do. We haven't come out with our comprehensive manifesto yet. But there are some basic things we can't keep quiet about. We can't keep quiet about the children's education. We want to improve our education sector. And we have said that we will review the whole system and provide adequate response to the challenges we have in education. We also said that we are going to bring an economy, revamp the economy, because we have been drawn back more than 30 years behind us. We have lost the confidence of the public, the economic community, and our friends around us. We've lost confidence in them. We need to show that we can catch up.
Can the NDC do that? And mind you,
yes.
We're in an IMF program.
Yes.
Like it or not, whichever president takes over from here, whether it's Alan Chamanting, John Dramani Mahama, Dr. Bawumia, or whichever other independent candidate, is going to have a really tough time. It's going to be worse before it even shows any sentiment, any least sliver of getting better. It's going to take quite a while. So I suggest to anyone intending to take office to tread cautiously, because with the promises and everything, it's not going to be easy.
Yes, I'm happy you've gotten to this point where you now recognize that where we've gotten up to, we need to raise the foundation before we can build up. Look, the key thing is about revamping this economy. So that's the key idea about the 24-hour economy, where we get people working. I mean, we don't have to think that to keep an economy functioning, you need to go somewhere and get money for that. Production has to be from Ghana itself as a core principle, so that if you are getting anything from elsewhere, it will be an added up to exactly what you have already. So we will keep the economy up and running. We will make sure we strengthen the security system to make sure we don't have this situation where you have security people go kill a Ghanaian and it's nothing. It has to be something. We'll make sure every other issue about our economy, our agriculture, especially in the production of cocoa. The key things that make Ghana what it is: cocoa, our newfound oil. Every single aspect of it is properly organized in manners that can help develop this nation and relieve the people of this tension we are going through.
Let me just look at some of the messages. Isdor Mwinterebo says, we need JM back to make the country better. Johnny Jones says, Bawumia is a disaster for the country, but there are other sides to the conversation, so let me get there. Nathan Odame Abosi, and I don't recall this, so I'm going to put it to you. He says, this very man in your studio, that is Dr. Rashid Pelpo, told Ghanaian youth that they should go and crack stones when they were complaining about unemployment. Would he tell his son to go and crack stones? And he says, if the NPP is not performing, is the NDC the option? Can Donald Trump go back and tell Americans to vote for him? Interestingly, I think there was a poll recently where Donald Trump, interestingly, was actually more popular than Joe Biden. But I don't know about the Americans going back for Donald Trump. That is their problem, though. We're dealing with our own problems. There's also this one, Nathan Odame. We made noise before about common chalk, which was provided for schools some years ago. I remember that. I'll wrap with this. Godwin Ajetinya, who says, you see how relevant his comments are only when he is in charge. The same narrative today with the NDC. As for this NPP administration, Charlie, the worst of all, you have, and you describe the president, the vice, and the finance minister in certain circles or in certain ways that I cannot read. But you see, that is the problem.
Yeah,
people are losing faith, and young people are on the cusp of despondency because they feel whichever way you go, it's like being caught between the devil and the deep blue sea.
No. You see, those who are losing faith, they are losing faith in their own government. And rather than saying we are losing faith in, Netam has lost faith in his own government. He has lost faith in what Dr. Bawumia is doing. He can't go along with them. Rather than saying we have failed, he will now say, what else can you also do? No, he knew what we did. He knew that we constructed roads, we built streets, we built hospitals. We did all that to make Ghanaians happy. And we kept the economy live and going. Netam made a reference to a situation, something I said on this in this studio. I was making an analysis when I was a minister responsible for the private sector, Minister of State. And I said, even if you are not educated, you don't have any skill, and you are a Ghanaian, you can still work. Why did I say that? I said you can still work because where you are, I could use, for example, if you are in a place where there are computers, and then you know how to repair a computer, just say, okay, set up a computer center and repair the computers. I could say, if you have confidence in the bank and there are no cars in a place, you could go and get cars and sell to people, get credit, import cars and sell to people. But they hate it when you go down and use the grassroots of somebody who has no money, but who you want to encourage to work. They hate it. Once you said that, they say, hey, he's referring to graduates to go and... No, it was just an example I was showing that if you are not working and you can do A, B, C, D at places where you have the advantage, if you have an advantage in a place where you can crack stones, crack it. Don't sit and say, I don't have work to do. If you have an advantage in a place where you can sell anything at all, do that, there are some of the things you don't need to buy.
And so that was the analogy you were
That
drawing
was the
there.
analogy I was
Because I actually recall hosting this event at the Kempinski Hotel, and someone I met, he's Ghanaian, his wife is Ghanaian, prominent,
Yes.
and he told me that many years ago in the UK, he was actually in a bank, working in a prominent bank, and all of a sudden they had to, let go of a number of them. The British gentleman there, who had always had life a certain way, had never came to him and asked, so what are we going to do now? What happens next? And next day, and he said to him, look, I have a family to feed. I'm going to get a ride-hailing service, Uber, Bolt, or something of the sort, and I'm going to ride. I'm going to do anything possible to feed my family. And that was what he did at the time, within that window. Unfortunately, the British guy committed suicide because, well, I guess he had never come to terms with such situations in his life or whatever. I'm not trying to, explain away. But I guess whatever the situation may be, sometimes as politicians, we should always watch how we, communicate certain things, because you never know how someone may take it. You see this, I don't remember, but he remembers and he put it up, and I was going to put it to you.
Yeah.
Anyway, to conclude the conversation though, the promises are being made. Now Ghanaians don't know who is telling the truth and who is just fibbing to try and get his way to power. The vice president wants to become president. The former president wants to become president. How do we read between the lines? And then, to cap off, Parliament is debating the 2024 budget.
Yeah.
You are in there. The debating has started. You have threatened that if some of the things, like the cocoa bit in there, the 40 million or so for torches, which I find pretty interesting, among others. But there are serious concerns about the budget. The business community has been up in arms about some aspects of it. Taxation is one of them. What can we expect from the NDC moving forward on the budget?
Well, we would examine it. If we listen to the debate we started yesterday, we came out with very strong observations about the budget, and we thought that some of the mistakes are so basic that they shouldn't make them. We drew the attention to the Ghanaian public that the budget is not good for them, and that a good budget should be making the people have confidence in this last regime of the administration. But it didn't. It's not giving that confidence. So we are definitely going to work with them, point out the areas that they can make better if they will listen to us. We want to work for Ghana. We don't want to work necessarily for NDC. And we want to. That's why some of the time you see us working along with them. In the last borrowing they did, they needed $750 million. That was last year, in order not to create a chaos in this economy, because our reserves had come down. They needed money. Export became a problem because we didn't have money to even change and give to our people to go. So they needed that money. We knew that we could oppose it. We looked at the numbers, we were more than them. But we said, look, for the sake of Ghana, let's approve it. So we work for Ghana most of the time. So we have gotten to the point where we realize that they have nowhere else to go. But at this time, we can't help them. We can only advise them. And so the NDC is going to take lessons from whatever is happening. We are going to make sure we do constructive criticisms of the budget, and eventually we will produce maybe an alternative situation for them to see if they want it.
An alternative budget?
Alternative situation in aspects of
an alternative budget, because when you heard Dr. Bawumia speak in 2015 for the 2016 budget, that was exactly what he said, an alternative budget. Maybe, in the past, we've contemplated the main opposition as the government in waiting. We've even had shadow ministers and all of that. So I don't know why, don't shy away from, if it's an alternative in that regard, call it an alternative.
Yeah, we want to make sure we point, that's why I call it constructive criticisms. The areas we think need to be modified to improve the lives of people, we bring it all out. But you see, the pain about it is that the people themselves you want to help do not think that they are wrong. Insistently, they keep saying they are not wrong. It is Ukraine. It is not us. It is COVID. It is not us. It's the Boko conflict. And now they are talking about the war in Gaza. It's creating problems for them. So you don't know what the problem is. They have to admit to their failures, and then we can help them to get onto the road. We know that they have failed, but it shouldn't be a pain, consistent pain.
Right.
All of us.
All right.
But let me also say that the NPP people, Natam and co, who are disgruntled about their party, should show disgruntled about it. Don't say, oh, John Mahama didn't also do well. No, we did well. And you know it. They themselves know it. Everything they criticize us about, they have apologized. Obosoka people apologize, the nurses have apologized. Everybody who thought that we were not doing well. And I told you about the businessman who saluted me and said they were wrong for criticizing us. We can improve and do better.
All right.
Don't have a feeling that, oh, NPP hasn't done. No, that's wrong. They have not done well. They thought about themselves. They have invested in themselves. They have stolen to the point that they don't have confidence in the bank. They can't keep money in the bank anymore. It's in their houses. Can you imagine somebody $1 million being stolen from the house? Can you imagine that? I'm not saying she has stolen, but if you don't have confidence in the bank to go and put money there, there's something wrong with the system.
This message comes through. It says, please tell Rashid that we're tired of our educational system being toyed with by both parties. They should desist from coming and changing things all the time. What prevents them from setting up a committee from both parties to set the educational standards once and for all so that they don't keep tossing and changing? The licential or the licensure exams are like the engineers and architects and quantity surveyors exams undertaken for their professional certification. So that's the bit in there. Of course, some concerns have been raised about the pass mark of 70 and whether it should be reversed to 50. There's also this one, Adam Abdul Hanan says, Bawumia has nothing to tell Ghanaians anymore. We have all felt the hardship and no one needs a campaign again. It will be an easy task for John Mahama to floor him. I don't think it's going to be that easy. And if anyone in the election lets his or her guard down, I think that person would be disappointed. We need to, whoever is going to lead this country, take Ghanaians seriously. This one, Fizi says, the NPP disappointed Ghanaians and their followers. Instead of people to call them out for their incompetence and mismanagement, they are rather being sycophants. Okay, that reiterates what you were saying.
Yeah.
We have to sew up the conversation here, and we'll have ample opportunity going forward, especially as the budget is debated, to get into the meat of some of these matters that we've discussed. But Dr. Pelpuo, we are grateful you joined us this morning.
Thank you
for this discussion.
Thank you.
Dr. Rashid Pelpuo is Member of Parliament for Wa Central. He joined us right here for our first major issue. Now, coming up next after the break, employment prospects are key to development and stability across, especially Africa. Many entrepreneurs in Africa have the potential to create new jobs. According to estimates by the World Bank, the African diaspora in Germany transfers almost 1.5 billion euros to their home country each year. That's why there's We Do Africa, and we'll be having a conversation with them right after the break.